Hi, welcome to the High Lady Book Club.
My name is Jessie, and I love podcast discussions and deep dives.
And I'm Katie, and I love all things Sarah J Maas and outlandish theories.
So we combine those loves into a weekly Sarah J Maas discussion podcast. We'll be reading along to her books.
We're diving into Crescent City first, and class is starting now.
This is the English class you don't want to spark note. Hi, welcome to the first episode of the High Lady Book Club.
We're excited to be doing this. I can't believe we're actually
Finally happening. So I thought before we dive in, we should talk about our credentials for being hosts of this podcast.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that you're going to be our resident expert.
I have been a huge Sarah J Maas fan since 2012 when her series came out, Throne of Glass. I wasn't an OG. She posted her Throne of Glass series, or at least the first book, on a fanfic website prior. I didn't know about it then, but ever since I've just been obsessed, and I've been reading all of her books in like real time. And like whenever there is a time that she has not released a new book, I just reread
Until the next one comes out.
Yeah, I'm like, what do I do without any books?
Which is kind of what you're doing now.
Yes.
With
now,
me.
Now I have like a purpose to be doing. But I've been to a ton of her book signings and some of her book tours. And my just goal in life has been to make all my friends read her books. And that's how you started reading.
That's how I learned about the books.
Yeah.
I started with ACOTAR, or A Court of Thorns and Roses.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you call your gateway series.
Yeah. I think ACOTAR is like the perfect gateway into Sarah J Maas.
I think so. Yeah.
It just has the perfect combination of like romance and like fantasy, and it kind of like starts off right away. So that's why I get people hooked.
It really does hook you.
Yeah. And then everybody reads the other one.
Yes. Yeah. Then you're like, okay. Then yeah. So that's how I got into them.
Mm-hmm.
I read ACOTAR, then Throne of Glass I read like twice, because the first time I didn't end up like finishing it. I don't know why, but eventually I came back to it.
Yeah.
And wow.
Yeah.
That is a great series as well. So I'm really excited to jump into this new one.
Yeah. And you've been a huge like podcast. You're the podcast fan of the two of us. So Jessie knows more about podcasting and social media, so she'll be the resident expert on that.
Just on my phone a lot. I need constant stimulation, as most of us do these days.
But now we're doing it. You know, we're at least attempting to do it on a
Purpose
productive way with our own podcast.
Yeah. Yes.
And we've just been huge fans of like all of the fantasy like book worlds.
Yes, the big fandoms.
Yeah.
Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Twilight
was a big one for me.
Jessie was a huge Twilight fan. Back in the day, we were both Edward fans.
Yes.
But Jessie has jumped ship.
Well, if you read Midnight Sun, I don't know, it changes your perspective.
That's
a little. It changed mine.
That's fair. I have not read it because I just want to live in...
Leave it how it was.
In middle school, Edward forever.
Yeah. I know. My middle school self would be cursing my current day self out 100%.
Yeah.
She would die. If we ever get enough followers, maybe I'll share some of the most cringiest pictures of my life.
There's some good ones. There are some gems.
Ooh,
sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's basically why we are here today.
We are book nerds,
Mm-hmm.
have been, and will continue to be.
Yes.
For ever.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so those are our credentials. Should we get into my recap?
Yeah. So, kind of what everyone can expect. We'll post our little study guide with some episode notes. And we also have on our Instagram some visual aids to help people keep characters and government straight. And we'll always start with like a quick little recap, just for people who, maybe have read it a while ago, just to like cue people into what we're talking about. Jess is gonna recap for us chapters 1 through 4. So this is your warning. If you have not read Crescent City 1, House of Earth and Blood, chapters 1 through 4, don't keep listening to this podcast.
Unless you are ready to just be spoiled.
This is your warning. So let's get into it.
And I guess you also wanted to say that I did not read the back of the book, which apparently has some information on it.
Yeah, so Jessie, for those of you who have, you know that there is a spoiler on the back of the book. And so I just wanted Jessie to have a perspective for this podcast that is completely 100% spoiler free. She doesn't even know like what the book is about. She's just going in blind.
I just take Katie's recommendations. I mean, ACOTAR, Throne of Glass. I'm like, yeah, whatever you say, I'm ready.
So we'll see if she hates me by the end of this. But Jessie is completely spoiler free. So this is her take, having literally only read the first 4 chapters.
Yes, that's all I know.
Yeah. All right.
All right, so it starts from the perspective of Bryce, which is half fae, and she works at this fancy gallery, and her boss is some kind of defunct witch who was kicked out of her house. She does seem like a major bitch, but I kind of get like some ounce of respect for her. I don't know. We don't know much about her. Yeah. But it seems like someone you don't want to mess with.
You don't want to cross her, or you might be turned into an animal.
Yeah. Yeah. Then Danica comes waltzing in the gallery in her wolf form, of course, casually, like she's a shifter, apparently, that's normal for her. She's super powerful and rumored to be the next Prime, which is like the person in power in her wolf community.
Yeah, there's like some tension there between her and her mom, who should be, she's currently like the Prime apparent, but Danica has more power than her, so that's kind of interesting for sure.
And her grandfather just like gave Danica the family sword, like the family heirloom that's been passed down.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, it called to Danica one night.
Yeah.
Like, her mom is salty.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I would be too. But anyway, so we meet her. She is, she comes into the gallery. She's upset because there's some terrorists named Philip Briggs who tried to blow up a nightclub, which Danica had stopped. She does seem like a badass bitch. Yeah. That seems like something she would do.
She kind of does. She kind of seems like someone who never just chooses to pick her battles. She just picks every battle, and
I respect that.
Yeah, seems like she wins most of it.
Yeah. So. She seems impressive. So this guy, Philip Briggs, is possibly being released from jail on some kind of technicality. And basically he's trying to bring a war from another continent to their continent. And it's all about humans rebelling against the Veneer, which are the magic beings.
Yeah. Any being with magical power. Yeah, it's like not PC in this world to call beings humans.
Right. I would not want to offend.
No.
Because these seems like you do not want to have with this. Yeah. If you're a human, you're seen as like a lower class in this world. So we're lowly.
So we won't be calling them humans.
Yes. Magical beings. And right off the bat, Danica and Bryce seem like relatable BFFs. They live in the city. They're like young. They go out. They smoke mirth root and drink and like go to clubs. Yeah. Very early 20s friendship. Love it. I'm also salty about their chosen drop age, which we can get more into.
Yeah.
which is dropping into power.
Yeah.
And then Bryce is getting ready to leave for a date with some dickhead guy named Reed, who apparently they've had sex, and he was just on his phone right after, which Danica calls that out in front of all her wolf friends.
Yeah.
And then we meet Connor, who's Danica's second, who definitely clearly has a thing for Bryce.
Yeah.
So, like, Bryce is trying to leave for this date with Reed. Connor's like, hi, what about me? Bryce goes on this shitty date and leaves because he's an asshole who's on his phone. And she meets up with Fury, one of her cool college friends from college, not in college anymore, who's also, like, a badass assassin.
Yeah, so they met in college, but Fury actually was not a college student. She was just, like, on a mission, and, like, that was, like, her cover. And we don't know what the mission was. Like,
that is wild.
It's just kind of like a don't ask, don't tell with Fury. We don't know what she does. She's, like, some badass assassin, and we don't want to know.
Doing 22 Jump Street. Being like, hey, you guys want to do Mirth? And then she's also friends with a fawn named Juniper, who at first, when I was reading it, I was just like, she's also a dancer.
Yeah.
So for some reason, when it said fawn, I was like, just thinking like, she's graceful like a fawn.
Right.
But I didn't realize that she's actually like some...
She's got hooves.
Yeah. That is just interesting.
Yeah.
So basically after this shitty date, Bryce is going out, meeting up with her friend. She's calling Fury and Juniper and being like, let's go out and party. And then Danica is salty because it's her night with her wolf pack. They all have like one night off of their duties to hang out.
Yeah.
And they're all together watching like TV.
Yeah.
That's what wolves do when they're dead, I guess.
And eating pizza.
And eating pizza.
Yeah. I mean, relatable.
It does sound like a good night, honestly. But that's kind of the really quick recap of chapters 1 through 4.
Yeah. So one of the things I've been most excited to hear is what your thoughts on the series being so like present day.
Yeah, that has been interesting. It's been different than her other series. The cell phone thing was cool. I like the way she did it. Like they were texting. She was texting Connor and some other one from the wolf pack about Danica. But I also, it felt very present day in like not the best way with the technology. Yeah. But more like the bombs and the guns and like the terrorist part. Yeah. Felt like very present day in a different, more dark way.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting that, you know, I think you kind of pointed out that like humans, they're like lower and less than. And so like these weapons are their only like way to like fight against the veneer. So they use all these like like guns, just like things that we have here on Earth.
And I thought her like Sarah J Maas making guns so powerful that like humans can kill veneer with them was interesting. Yeah. And also just shows how like dangerous guns are, and that's like what the humans have like against them, and what I'm sure they're using in the rebellion on like that other continent.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so it was like relatable and like the technology, but also like the present day, like not so great stuff. Yeah. Also in their world, which I'm thankful we don't have in our present day, is these like public crucifixions that like Bryce just kind of like just casually mentions like how the you know, something was stolen during this blackout, Luna's horn, and who's ever like found that's just have stolen this, like Micah, the big guy who is in charge of everything, the archangel, said that like their punishment will be being like killed in front of, like it happens in like the main square or something. Yeah.
That's very interesting. It is. So one of the things that Sarah J Maas drew inspiration off of was the Romans, like, and their entire kind of government structure and stuff, and so the Romans used to do crucifixion. So I'm curious if that's kind of like part of where that came from.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think I realized they did that.
Yeah. Yikes. We don't have that here anymore, at least.
Yeah. 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 It was interesting to have like the cell phones and the present day technology with something like that feels so like barbaric or like, yeah.
Interesting.
That was eerie. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I did love Danica and Bryce's relationship.
I know.
Like it felt very relatable.
Yeah.
Like, and you could like they're just so close and like
just living like your very 20s lifestyle. Like they're roommates. They're like really close. They're friends with each other's friends. Yeah. This is something we don't get in any of her other series. Also, like friendship. Like there's obviously friendships that develop, but I feel like to have like such a close-knit group of friends and whatever, that's like kind of a new thing that I kind of like.
They seem like really funny like together too. Like I know you'd mentioned that Sarah J Maas, she mentioned like Broad City.
She feels like Danica and Bryce are the Abby and Alana of Crescent City.
I love that.
Broad City fans. Just Broad City.
I love Broad City. Yeah. And I could totally see like Bryce as Abby and Danica being Alana, who's like just over the top, like outspoken, like a badass bitch, like kind of unhinged, but like you love it. Like that. Those are the vibes that I get from her. Oh, I love that.
And I know, so for the drop age, so basically like the drop is this thing that you can do if you have power and you kind of drop into your power and it starts your immortality for those who have power and are immortal. And so both Danica and Bryce can do this. And they've chosen a very specific age because they think it's like the perfect peak age and everything goes downhill from there.
Which is 27.
Yes.
Which I'm only going to be for like a month and a half.
And I am already 28, so just a little salty about their pick. According to Bryce and Danica, everything goes downhill for us. Here.
Right. They were talking about like saggy boobs and wrinkles, and I was just like, wow, I guess this is the end of it, huh?
I guess this is what we have to look forward to.
Yeah. I was like, come on, like early 30s have to be, those are prime time too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, slightly salty, but it is cool that Bryce being half fae, but she did like a DNA test to find out that she's like gonna be immortal. Yeah. Or, you know, live just thousands of years.
Yeah. Yeah. That is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Like kind of also related to present day. You can kind of find out interesting things about like, ooh, like what sickness could I get? Like it's not quite as exciting as theirs, but
that would be cool. You send a cheek swab and it's like, you're gonna live like 3,000 years.
You are immortal and you have power. That sounds better than our version here.
Yeah, ours is like, you're more prone to fatigue. You're like, kidney disease is more likely.
That's your family. Yeah, not great news.
Yeah, they have an excellent outlook, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just slightly salty of that.
That's fair. But what do you think of Reed?
Reed seemed like your typical, like, wealthy, like, attractive, wealthy dude that's like...
I'm God's gift to mankind.
Yeah.
Or, like, being kind. I don't know how to say that.
Right, because he was human,
He's human. Yeah.
So... He's like top of the food pack, but for the human.
Yeah, he's like clawed his way up there. Well, his family did because they started cell phones. They like were the inventors of cell phones. Now they're ultra rich. And so they're kind of like exempt from the lower class feel because they're so wealthy.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah. Adds up.
Um,
Rules that apply to society except for the rich.
yeah, basically, exactly. I was glad that she ended up ditching him because when she was talking about him, I was like, she wasn't into him. The sex isn't good. Like, yeah, he has a lot of money and power, but like,
And he sounded attractive, but
that's true.
I mean,
yeah, in the
otherwise,
long run,
I
you didn't. And if your best friend doesn't like, like that's probably
a
not
red
gonna
flag
end
for
well.
sure.
And then Connor was like, really giving it his all to be like, hey, like, what about me?
Yeah. And I know you hate this trope.
Yeah, I definitely rolled my eyes. Like actually rolled my eyes reading, like, whatever line it was that was like, please, like, give me a chance, like, you won't regret it, or something like along those lines. And I was just like, oh my God, like, you have to beg someone to go out with you.
Yeah. No.
It's not a good look.
I definitely, I feel like for anyone listening, Connor is definitely not like a how-to guide on, like, if someone's not interested in you, like, you're probably not going to be able to convince them otherwise, no matter how many times you, like, wear them down.
That's what I hate. It's just, like, the wearing down till someone eventually gives in. And then it's usually not. It's never what they're like, it'll be worth it. And it is far from worth it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But I feel like in this case, okay, I thought everything was cute. I thought Connor was, like, really cute. And I feel like you have to kind of look at it in the context. Like, it's clear, like, Bryce was also interested, and she was just on this, like, oh my gosh, like, I just have too many problems. Like, which is also annoying. But I feel like it's also kind of like a front for, like, it's complicated because Connor is in the Pack of Devils, which is the like wolf group that Danica runs, and he's her second. And Danica is like Bryce's like best friend, like favorite person on this earth. So like if things go wrong, like Connor's not going anywhere, and neither is Bryce, and it's just gonna like cause issues.
No, that's a very good point, and definitely adds like more context. Because it's always that thing like within a friend group. Like, if two people start dating, like, it could affect things, like, so I get it. I get, like, he's like, I don't care, I want to do this, and she's kind of like, like, she eventually agreed to go on a date with him. Yeah, and I think he's more like, it's worth the risk, like, not like, I am worth, it's like, no, like, a shot at us could be, like, worth it, and we'll figure it out if things go. Yeah, it was cute. Yeah. I just have to roll my eyes.
That's fair.
Like my own personal.
That's fair.
Experiences that have tainted. That's my view. But yeah, so I think he'll be really cute. Like I have a good feeling. Like even though I had to roll my eyes, he sounded very cute. So. Yeah, and that's kind of where the main characters, I guess, we kind of covered.
Yeah, that's kind of the big people we've met. Should we discuss the world itself?
Yeah, there's a lot of information. So I think it would be helpful if we like get into it a little bit. But maybe we'll take a quick break first.
Yeah, let's take a quick break and then we'll come back and dive into the world.
All right, sounds good.
All right. So, should we get into the world?
Yes. When I first started the book, so it opens up, I think the first thing was the map. Yeah. And I saw, I know I'm going to butcher this, Lunathion? Lunathion. So my first thought when I saw like Lunathion across the page, I was like, I forgot. Like I'm gonna have to learn all these new words, all these new pronunciations that I'm gonna say wrong in my head for the entire book. Then learn it's a different pronunciation.
I know
I was like a little like like PTSD from like, oh yeah, like here. I was like, wow, I don't know, like I didn't mentally prepare for that aspect of it.
There's a lot of names in this.
And it's heavy.
Yeah.
And then so it's the map, which was very like a city, like a modern city. So that was also cool and really different. And then there's that page breaking down the 4 houses of Midgard, which now I totally get why you talked about there being like visual aids and like all these things to help understand this book. Yeah. Because it's a lot of information.
Yeah, it is. So on our Instagram page, you can pull up a couple different like guides we made to like kind of help while you're reading it. You're like, wait, what does this mean? You can like go there for like a quick reference, but we'll just do like a quick rundown of things. And I also wanted to throw in some like little mythology tidbits. So Sarah J Maas said that one of her biggest inspirations for this series was Norse mythology, but there's also some other mythology sprinkled in. So anytime I see, or I've like found parallels, I'll try and like bring them up throughout the book.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it will have some like foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Like, knowing the mythology.
Yeah. So Sarah J Maas has said that she grew up under the J.K. Rowling era, where like she loved how like in the very first chapter of the very first book, Sirius Black's motorcycle is like a thing, and then it's not brought up until the 3rd book, and she's like, oh, I love the idea of dropping things. So I definitely think that's like a huge possibility. So we're gonna try and like crack her codes, but we'll see if we can.
Yeah, I don't know.
She's really good at it.
She is.
But so we are in the planet Midgard, and Midgard translates in Norse mythology to home of man.
Interesting.
Yeah, which is very fitting because originally Midgard was home to only humans and like ordinary animals.
Right.
Like Earth.
It was like present day.
Yeah. But then, like long time ago, 15,000 years ago, there was this event referred to called the Crescent, and all sorts of creatures came over through the Northern Rift. And they actually measure their calendar by this event. So VE is the Vanir era, when all of like those creatures came over. That marks the time of after the crossing. And then prior to that, it was HE, or the human era. So now we've got Midgard populated by humans and Vanir. And Vanir is also comes from Norse mythology. It's actually, there are 2 types of Norse gods. One type is Vanir, and they represent peaceful aspects of nature and possess knowledge of magic. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Because they're the magical beings here. So some parallels there.
And it sounds like a good...
Like, they sound good.
Sound good.
I'm not 100% sure that part is being translated in, especially after meeting Jessica, who sounds...
True. Yeah.
questionable.
And I mean, there's also like demons and...
Yeah.
Demon.
Yeah.
It definitely sound bad.
Right. But that's, there's just a parallel there.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so then that's who live on this planet, and there are 2 continents. There's Pangea, which is the bigger continent. And over there is where that human rebellion you were talking about is taking place between the humans and Vanir. Although some Vanir are like backing the humans, and it's like kind of complicated, and we're just like staying away from that. We are over in the other continent, Valbara. And this continent is where Bryce is, where Crescent City is. It's a smaller continent. And so that's kind of like the general world. Crescent City is in Valbara. It's on the southeastern coast of it. And basically the power structure there's a power structure for the entire world.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. So the Asteri rule the entire world of Midgard. Pretty powerful.
And those were the people that... Were those the people Danica was going to meet with?
So she wasn't going to meet with the Asteri.
They're the top.
Yeah, they're the top. And they are, they actually live in the Eternal City, which is in the other continent, in Pangea. Okay. So they are like over somewhere else.
Okay, not even.
Yeah. And actually, this is interesting to note. So the other group of Norse gods is called the Aesir. And so I'm wondering, like, could that potentially be related to the Asteri? I don't know.
Yeah, that does sound very similar.
The Aesir gods are more aggressive and warlike, and they represent brute strength and raw power of nature, which is interesting because the Aesir are like the most powerful here.
They're the top of the food chain.
Yeah. So there were 7 of them, and one of them died, though. So now there are 6 that run the planet Midgard. And the power structure is a lot like the Roman Empire. That's what Sarah J Maas based it off of. But instead of one empire, there are the Asteri as like the 6 ruling entities. So for those history buffs who like that helps them, didn't help me. I don't know anything about history.
Now I wish I paid more attention
I know.
for this specific reason.
But then under the Asteri, there are archangels, and they run territories in Midgard. And so in Valbara, there's the archangel Micah, Micah Dominus, and he is the Valbaran archangel. So he runs he's the governor of the entire continent.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. There are 10 total archangels. We haven't met any of the others, but they're over in Pangea.
He's the only one for this continent.
Yeah. So the people Danica met up with were the heads of the different areas in Crescent City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there are 7 heads in Crescent City, and they all kind of run different territories. So in addition to his archangel duty, Micah also is the head of the Central Business District in Crescent City. And then there are the other heads, which you can read on our page. I won't like list them out. But there's like one example is like the Prime of the Wolves, which we talked about was Danica's grandfather. Yeah. He is a head of, and he's over in Moonwood. And then there's like other ones. But what's important to note is in Crescent City, there's also the Asphodel Meadows, which is another section, and that's where the humans live, but they have no head and no representation in the government.
Yeah.
So,
sad.
Kind of unfortunate for them. You can maybe understand why people are rebelling.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned the 4 houses. So all the beings are in 4 houses, and they're broken down again on that page right after the map that you can like read specifically, but you can either be considered a full civitas, which are full citizens of the house, and they have like, you know, more standing and power or like respect, or you're considered a peregrini, which is like a lower, and humans are considered lowers.
Right, like Danica, or not, Bryce's mom is
she's full human. So she's like considered a lower. She is not a full civitas. She doesn't get like full citizenship to House of Earth and Blood where the humans are out there. So like I bet Reed probably does. I don't know, but like, you know, there are times where you can be like make exceptions, but in general, humans are the lowers.
Yeah. I'm sure the rich people get the full.
They get the full treatment. But in addition to the humans, there's also the slaves to the Republic and then others who are deemed less than. Those are the lowers. We like briefly learn about something called the Fall. So sprites are now considered lowers, even though they were originally in House of Sky and Breath, but they participated in a rebellion called the Fall. We don't know what that is, but it doesn't sound good.
Yeah. And now they were kicked out of their house.
Yeah, they're kicked out. They are no longer full civitas. They're considered lowers. So that's kind of just a general overview. The other thing I wanted to go over are the gods. So there are 5 gods in this world. And it's kind of interesting, like, they have these little phrases like burning soulless and thank Kathana for that. Like, like, you know, instead of like, thank God for that. Like, I thought that was like kind of
like,
fun.
What is burning soulless, like burning
like,
hell?
Yeah, like, I don't know what that, but just kind of interesting, like some parallels there. But one of the goddesses is Luna, and she's the patron goddess of Lunathion, or Crescent City. And Luna is also like a Roman goddess. She's often attributed to the crescent moon, which makes sense.
Crescent City, yeah.
And so she is she chooses some individuals to be a part of Earth and Blood or the House of Sky and Breath. So she can like kind of pick some people to join.
Okay.
There's Cathana, which is like the Earth goddess. And so Cathana is derived from an ancient Greek word that means earth or soil. And it's often used in Greek mythology to describe things related to the underworld. So it's kind of interesting. So like Hades and Persephone are considered chthonic gods.
Oh,
I didn't know that. It's like in direct contrast to like the Olympic gods, like Zeus. So just interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting.
But so since it means earth or soil, it comes to as like to no surprise that she calls individuals to be part of the House of Earth and Blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. The next one is Solus, who's the sun god. And this has there's like a lot of interesting Norse mythology around Solus that we might dive into at a later point. But so Solus is, he blesses individuals and invites them into sky and breath.
Okay.
Ogenis is the sea goddess and also the keeper of mysteries. And so this is just interesting that Oceanus is a Greek titan, which is like predates the Olympic gods of like Zeus. Like the Titans come before the Olympic gods, Zeus and Hades. And Oceanus was the Greek god that fathered the river gods. So it was like a god that watched over like fresh water, which is interesting because Ogenis, we have like the Eastros, which is like a river.
Right. And that's what. Yeah. And that's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. She's impressive. She really does her research.
She does. And the last one, this one I think is like the most interesting to me. Erd. So Erd is kind of like a fate or like the mother. And so in Norse mythology, Erd is one of the three Norns, or they're also called like fate, the fates in Greek mythology. But they like are responsible for shaping the course of human destinies.
Wow.
And they like spin threads of life. They'll measure people's destinies. They show the fate of all human beings and gods.
Wow.
In mythology. And so have you ever seen Hercules, like the kids, movie?
Yeah.
Okay. When I was like reading about this, I just keep thinking about those like creepy looking sisters that like share an eyeball. Those are the fates.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And they use it, they like pass around the eyeball to see past, present, and future. And they can like cut a mortal thread of life and all. Like that's like Erd in this is considered like the one that represents the past out of the three like sisters.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that's interesting. And I think that like when I read that it made a lot more sense as to why it's in like Sarah J Maas says that like there are some wicked and unnamed things in the House of Flame and Shadow that like Erd herself can't even see.
That does make it make more sense because when you first read that, you're like, okay, like
they're invisible.
Like you're like, okay, what does that mean? But with that context,
yeah, it's more so like she can't see their destinies or like how they influence fate or stuff like that. So that's kind of like our big overview of, there's a lot of information in these first 4 chapters, so just kind of like an overview of that.
Yeah. And if anyone is still wants more breakdown, we will have visual aids on our Instagram.
Yeah, definitely.
That Katie did that look awesome.
Thanks. Yeah.
That are helpful for new readers like me that you're dropped into this world and you're like, just all this terminology of these hierarchies, this like all the different neighborhoods. You're like, what is going on.
Where am I?
Yeah.
What is happening?
Yeah, it's definitely starting to all make sense and come more together.
Yeah.
As we've like discussed it. And visually it's helped too.
For sure. Yeah. But no, so I think that is like a good start, and I'm just really excited to hear what you think of the next couple chapters.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, this was a lot of like heavy world building, but now we're gonna start getting into the plot. So I'm excited for that.
I know, I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah. So for next time, everybody should finish part 1 of Crescent City.
Yes. So the remaining 3 chapters?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, because that's what we'll be going over next week.
Yes, so that's your homework.
Everyone make sure that they're ready because we will be talking about it all.
Yeah. All right, this was fun.
Yeah, this was really fun.
Thanks for attending English class today.
To keep the discussion going, join us on Instagram at the High Lady Book Club.
Make sure you do your homework for next week, and we'll see you back here.